Welcome. Good evening to all. Welcome to Rebuild, Reconcile, Reimagine, releasing a list of demands for centering Black women's leadership in arts education. My name is Gary Padmore. Him, his. I'm the vice chair of the board of the Arts and Education Roundtable, also director of education at the New York Philharmonic. I'm a Black male, currently wearing a blue sweater with a burgundy checkered shirt underneath, and also a father, a friend, son as well. Um, Here at the Roundtable, this initiative is a grassroots service organization working to improve and advance the state of arts education through professional development, workshops, advocacy, and online resources and platforms to connect the arts education field. I want to just put a quick land acknowledgement. Although we are currently meeting, all of us via various online Zoom platforms, the Roundtable would like to acknowledge that we work and live on stolen land. The place that we call New York City exists on the traditional, ancestral, unceded land of the Canarsie, Lenape, Munsee, and Wappinger people. We'd like to give a moment of respect and honor to them, as well as to the Black and immigrant communities, which have helped, and most part, exclusively helped to lead and build this city as we know it today. So as we travel in their footsteps, we acknowledge that all of our histories are intertwined. So let's please take a moment to honor them. Thank you. Thank you. Um, just some other quick reminders for folks. If you are having any trouble with Zoom, please send a private message to Kinsey Keck for assistance. She's also here as a part of the panel. Please feel free to connect and share resources via the chat. If you would like to ask a question of our panelists, please use the Q&A feature. We will try to get to as many questions as possible, but of course, given all the content that we are sharing, time will be limited towards the end and throughout. There will be closed captioning. This call includes and so if you want to activate, find the closed captioning button on your Zoom toolbar and select show subtitles. In that same menu, you'll see that. And also lastly, I want to just acknowledge that this session is being recorded. So it will be made readily available to folks on our website through Vimeo, YouTube, and other social media channels later on. And so without further ado, I want to pass along this to a woman who I deeply respect and admire and have learned from daily in this field. And that is my friend and colleague, Toya Lillard.
Thank you so much, Gary. This is an exciting day. Just want to take a collective breath for us all. This day has been a long day coming for many of us, and also an opportunity for us to honor and acknowledge Black women in our field who are right here today, still working and still making art. It is the opportunity for us to give them their flowers now. So I'm really grateful to be here and grateful to be able to talk to you about this list of demands for centering Black women in our work, centering their leadership, trusting and believing them in all that we do. So the initiative is informed by letters released by We Are Art New York, as well as We See You White American Theater. So shout out to those initiatives because we learned and studied and got so much from them. Also, the Building Movements Project's seminal research reports, Race to Lead, Obstacles and Opportunities in Addressing the Nonprofit Racial Leadership Gap, both in 2016 and in 2019, all of which address multiple inequalities in the arts. The 2019 study focused specifically on Black women. So why Black women? Why is this list of demands about Black women and not BIPOC women or women of color, as we have seen these terms sort of embraced to represent a catch-all term, which is meant, the intentionality behind it is meant to include women of color, of course. I mean include Black women, but Black women don't end up always benefiting. So Black women have shouldered and performed inordinate amounts of labor, emotional and otherwise, in service to the arts education field in New York City. And despite 10 plus years of rhetorical dedication to equity, diversity, and inclusion at large, Black women that have occurred within the nonprofit and cultural sectors under the umbrella term of BIPOC, Black women end up holding the handle. That is because of anti-Blackness, because the specious social construct of race is formulated around a Black and white binary. Black women end up being the ones who receive the least amount of benefits for our efforts. And with regard to our field, we have evidence now that Black women are routinely, and this is statistical proof, as evidenced by the studies that I just mentioned to you, shut out of leadership opportunities, overworked, underpaid, and very little thought has been given to their longevity and their lives after they serve the field, right? So we're here today to support this campaign and to ask you all to consider, for your organizations and for your own lives, how do these issues affect you? What is your relationship with Black women that you work with in your organization? What are the opportunities for growth on the part of your organization to make their lives and conditions better? And for the field at large, it's a calling in to respond to something that we see as an emergency. For example, it was widely reported in December 2020 that women reported 100% of the job losses in this country. And it was at the headline of virtually every media outlet. But peeling back the layers and fact checking that sort of headline revealed that it was Black women that incurred the majority of the job losses, and white women actually had job gains. So this underscores for us the importance for us to be specific and intentional in naming Black women as the focus of this campaign and the focus of this panel today. So we ask you in some slides that will be shared now or later to consider along the way during this panel what your relationship is to these issues, the relationship that you have to Black women who are affected by these issues, Black women living at the intersection of the racial wealth gap and the gender pay gap, and what you can do to help rebuild, reconcile, and reimagine. So we are also really grateful to our Black Affinity Group, who spearheaded these efforts to draft this list of demands, as well as the efforts that have gone into creating some really beautiful videos and graphics for you to just sink your teeth into this campaign and get energized around it. I want to shout out Chesre Dolfa, who was the lead filmmaking visionary behind the videos that we are about to share with you that are a part of this campaign. We encourage you to visit the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable's website, where you can also participate in this campaign by signing your name to the list of demands, like right now, immediately. That will be put in the chat. You will also have access through the website to all of the videos, all 6 of them, which will be rolled out during this campaign, intentionally and specifically. There's also a social media aspect to the campaign, so we're going to be asking you to share it, to show up, and to amplify your voice in support of this list of demands. So I want to pass it on to Kenzie, who is going to introduce these wonderful videos, just 2 of 6 that we're going to see today. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Toya, so much. Hi, folks. I'm Kinsey Keck. I work for the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable as the Programming and Membership Manager. And I'm just going to share with you 2 of the videos that were recently recorded in relation to this list of demands and this campaign, which we're really excited about. The first is going to be a testimony from Rachel Watts. Rachel is the Executive Director of Arts Connection and also a New York City Arts and Education Roundtable board member. So I'm going to get started with that first. Here we go.
Someone like me coming to an executive director position can help shift the way we fundraise. My name is Rachel Watts. I am the Executive Director of Arts Connection. I think part of what led me to this work was that, was discovering that through art that I was actually smart and creative and independent thinker. Well, when I hear the word invisible labor, I think more, and I think there's parts of the question that I think it's not invisible, it's just not acknowledged, right? And so, and when you start acknowledging it, you shift structure, you shift the power and the way decisions are being made. When you allow that perspective to be acknowledged, it means that you have to think about transparency, you have to think about the way decisions are being made, and you have to be community centric, because that's the perspective that's coming to the table when Black women are at the table. I think part of it has to do with the capacity to move up, right? Because when you start acknowledging it, you start acknowledging that people actually have the capacity to do the job, right? And if you don't acknowledge it, then it's very easy to say, well, they don't have the credentials, they don't have the the criteria that we're looking for to do the job, because you're not acknowledging what they're bringing to the table. And I think it also means that it shifts the way you work. The structure of a nonprofit is fundraising, right? And I think one of the perspectives about Black women is they don't come with the social capital, right? When you move into a leadership position, you have to fundraise, you have to network, and there isn't a belief that can happen. But what that means is that someone like me coming to an executive director position, can help shift the way we fundraise, shift the way we look. And that actually helps in terms of how money is spent, because when you're beholden to a funder that says you need to spend it this way, you're kind of stuck. And it may not necessarily be as connected to the mission as you want. So when you have someone who doesn't have the same type of social capital as someone who comes with wealth, right, or connections to wealth, it means a shift in the way to work. And there's a fear, I think, of that, because it shifts the dynamics of power. #rebuild, #reconcile, #reimagine, support the campaign.
All right, thank you so much to Rachel Watts for taking the time to make that video with us. We really appreciate it. And we're gonna just share one more video with you all. Let me just get it queued up. Our next video features Funmilayo Chesney. Funmilayo is the artistic director of Fuchsia Dance Company. And let me just pull this up. All right, here we go.
So it's become very hard as a Black-owned business. My name is Funmilayo Chesney, Artistic Director of Fuchsia Dance Company and a teaching artist in New York City for over 20 years. So working that invisible labor that comes from us, going back to the creative side of it, first of all. We create the content. We create the lesson plan. Because of our lesson plan, and the way we teach, this is why the school continues to hire this particular or each particular organization. And what they do, they take your lesson plan and they tag their name on it, and they say that's their writing, that's their curriculum. What they need to do is start caring about the people that are on the front line that are keeping them up and running. If you didn't work, and you're sick, then you didn't get paid. There was no sick days. It was only a couple of years ago when they changed that. If you didn't work, you didn't get paid. If you didn't have bereavement, if someone in your family, my father died, you had to travel, but you're in the middle of a contract. If you leave the contract, another artist gets the contract, then you lose the contract. And that shouldn't be. You should be able to get the bereavement days that you need to take care of your family stuff. So those are two things I can think about that's taking advantage. Go to New York City Arts Roundtable website and check it out. Hashtag rebuild, hashtag reconcile, hashtag reimagine.
Thank you so much to Funmilayo for spending the time with us to make that video. I want to reiterate that we have other videos on that website, which has been shared in the chat. We will share it again. Please go take the time to listen to these very powerful testimonies. Toya, I'm going to turn it back over to you if you'd like to introduce our moderator for today's panel.
It is my great pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's panel. First, I should introduce myself, which I did not do, and acknowledge that I am on the unceded land of the Lenape people. My name is Toya Lillard. I am Executive Director of Vibe Theater Experience, as well as a board member of the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. I'm really grateful to be here and happy to be with you all again. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our moderator for today, the one who will be in charge from here on out, Amanda Gardner. Amanda is a speech professor as well as a member of Vibe Company. She has been involved with theater for about 10 years and has performed in multiple productions, as well as having worked behind the scenes on the administrative side. She is an advocate of for Black women of all shapes and sizes, and she feels passionately about telling their stories through more lenses and faces than one. She believes that storytelling is one of the most powerful forms of art, and that we do it a disservice when we don't allow people with some of the most compelling stories to have a microphone. Blessed and grateful to know Amanda Gardner. Thank you. Amanda Gardner, everyone.
Thank you for the good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that lovely introduction. We have a lot to talk about today, so I'm just gonna get into our panelists for today. So our panelists today are Toya Lillard. Toya Lillard is Executive Director of Vibe Theater Experience. Toya is also part-time faculty at the New School, where she teaches global dramatic literature, devised literature, and Portfolio 1. She is also an adjunct professor at CUNY City Tech, where she teaches Black theater. Toya holds a BA from Vassar College and an MA from New York University's Gallatin School of Individualized Study. Toya serves on the board of the New York Arts and Education Roundtable and is an affiliate representative on the board of the Downtown Brooklyn Arts Alliance. Eileen J. Morris. Eileen J. Morris is the artistic director of Houston's The Ensemble Theater, one of three largest African-American theaters in the world that owns its facility with over a $2 million budget. Eileen has produced over 87 productions, which include 8 world premieres, over 64 regional premieres, and has directed over 82 productions throughout her career. In April, she received the USITT Thomas DeGaetani award for the contributions to the performing arts community in Texas. Eileen is among 5 female artistic leaders recently selected as the first in the nation awarded part of a $1.25 million gift of the Pussycat Foundation and Northern Stage in support of women artistic directors in professional theaters across the United States. Donna Walker Kiyun. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because I love getting names correctly. So correct me if I am wrong, sorry. Donna Walker Kiyun is acknowledged as the nation's foremost expert in audience development by the Arts and Business Council. Ms. Donna has devoted her professional career to increasing access to the arts. She has raised over $20 million in earned income promoting the arts to multicultural communities. Donna is founder of the Walker International Communications Group, a boutique marketing, press, and audience development consulting agency. Her team specializes in multicultural marketing, group sales, multicultural press, and promotional events. She has gained unique insights in the challenges of initiating conversations and building meaningful partnerships with diverse constituents. Stephanie Hughley. Stephanie S. Hughley is currently a performing arts consultant. She is a relationship builder who maintains a high professional profile and is able to access financial resources and develop unique collaborative ventures with other organizations, public and private, for profit and nonprofit. For more than 45 years, she has worked in the performing arts and cultural community as an artist, curator, educator, general, company manager, presenter, and producer. She has shared her years of experiences and skills with a variety of artists, arts, cultural, educational, and community organizations. She began her career in the arts as a professional dancer and danced her way to New York in 1974, performing with various successful companies. As you have heard, we have a spectacular lineup. I personally am speechless. So diving right in, I present the first question. What started it all? How did you enter the field you are currently in?
I'll start. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with the fabulous sister friends. Oh, this is so great. Thank you very much for the invitation. How I started my career as an arts administrator, I began as a dancer from the South Side of Chicago, and growing up, during that time, I didn't know any dancers that made money. So I decided I needed a career where I could get a paycheck. So at the same time I was thinking about that, a lawyer came to our school for one of those career days, and I thought, oh, I think I can do that. I'll be a lawyer. And so I kind of put the dance on the back burner as a passion, but that my career would be that as a lawyer. And so I went to Howard University Law School. I danced all throughout law school. I took ballet every morning at 7 a.m. I choreographed musicals there. I choreographed the talent show, just insane. Then I got married and moved to New York and started practicing law. And I thought, okay, let me be serious. I'm going to be a lawyer. But then the dance just kept calling me. I was really frustrated. And so I did volunteer work at the Thelma Hill Performing Arts Center, which was conveniently located across the street from Family Court in downtown Brooklyn. So on my lunch hour, I taught myself how to be an arts administrator, just reading the papers that I was filing. I went there and I said, let me put things together for you. And so I started to do that. And I read the papers and I saw what a press release looks like, what a proposal looks like, how do you build the budget? And I basically taught myself the fundamentals of arts administration while prosecuting juveniles in family court. And after a year, my lunch hour started to extend until 4 o'clock, supposed to be back at 2. It was clear that I had found my mission, and I resigned and raised some money to pay myself as the managing director of Thelma Hill, working with Larry Phillips, who was an amazing presenter and producer. And then I started, being called back to ballet, and I wrote a letter to Arthur Mitchell. I didn't even have a resume. I just wrote him a letter and I said, you need me, you should hire me. And the day my letter arrived, his marketing director had resigned. It was 2 weeks before a city center engagement. They were premiering Creole Giselle, which was not selling tickets. And all he said to me was, can you sell tickets? And I said, yes. And I was hired. So that's how I began. It's filling in a gap, filling my soul, following my passion without clear direction, but confident that I had the skills to be successful. That was 40 years ago.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. It's my pleasure to be on this panel with my sister friends, and hello to those that I haven't seen in a long time. I come from the unceded land of Atacapa, and my ancestors are Imelda Benson and James Johnson, and I am just blessed to be able to say that I've been able to do what I love to do all my life. And though the trials and tribulations and the journeys have taken, a tremendous weaves in and out in the world, they still allowed me to be able to be passionate, be creative, and continue to love what I do. I grew up in Illinois, close to Chicago. And so always I felt that theater was a part of who I was to be and who I was to become. Went to school at Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, Illinois, where there really wasn't Black theater, or we didn't know much about it. And I was not getting an opportunity to perform. All I ever wanted to do was really perform and to act. But we did have an opportunity where we had 2 graduate students, Linda Bright and Jane A. Washington, who were the grad students liaisons, and they worked with us and formulated a Black theater company where those of us that were undergrads and others, community leaders, would be able to come together and to work in Black theater and learn about Black plays like Philip Hayes Dean's Star the Blind Pig, A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry, A Soldier's Play by Charles Fuller, and plays that really spoke to the stories of who we are as a people. After graduating from Northern, I moved to Houston, Texas, which is the land that my mom and dad are from. And so I came upon Mr. George Hawkins, who was the founder and artistic director of the Ensemble Theater in Houston. And I stopped there and I asked him if I could, volunteer and help out and figure out how we could happen, because I was very passionate about it, believed in it, and felt that I had something to offer to him. And he said, why don't you come and be here and volunteer with the theater? And that's how I actually got started. I volunteered with the Ensemble Theater. He wrote a grant through the Cultural Arts Council of Houston, the local funding source, and got a grant for a managing director, and asked me, because of my volunteerism and the opportunities that he saw that I was able to give to the organization, commitment, being able to work with a diverse group of people, great with management of dollars and people, those types of things. And he asked me to be his managing director. Though that was not what I wanted to initially get into, I knew that it was a way for me to get into the field of actually working in theater, which is really what I love to do and wanted to do, and especially Black theater. And then started working with George. And once he passed and made his transition, I became the artistic director of the Ensemble Theater and have had that wonderful journey since 1982. So that's kind of a capsule or a little snapshot, so to speak, of my journey as an artist and what we've been going through in Houston. And right now, you all keep us in prayer, because we still have a lot of things going on in Houston right now with our weather and all of that. So I'm in an unfamiliar territory in a small hotel, just trying to make it. So my internet may go in and out a little bit, but thank you. That's it for now.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. What a blessing to be here. I am actually here on the stolen land of the Tuscarawa people, commonly called Raleigh, North Carolina, city I wasn't on my list of places to live, but I'm surrounded by 4 generations of family here with my 90 and 91-year-old parents that are my top priority at this time. I got into this probably in college. I started, I'm a product of the Black Power movement. I moved from rebel to revolutionary. I found out that a rebel just rebels as opposed to a revolutionary who brings an alternative. I became a revolutionary during those days of the 60s, late 60s, and really found out who I am. I found myself and my voice in the middle of the Black Power movement, because it was all about who we are as a people and the contributions that we have made and the injustices that we faced for no other reason than the color of our skin. And so, like Amanda said, I started dancing in college. I had an African sister. We had an African ball. It was funny how we had dashikis and afros and talked about Africa, but none of us had ever been to Africa. And so a sister who was from Nigeria, she actually started teaching us about African people and the kings and queens and the kingdoms that were a part of the African civilizations way before Europe and America was ever thought about. And she started teaching African dance. And so just as a hobby, because I was in science, she started teaching African dance, and I absolutely loved it. I kind of danced my way from Kent State University, where I went to undergraduate school, to Boston, where I actually met Elma Lewis and the School of Fine Arts, and every major choreographer at that time, from Alvin to George Faison to Fred Benjamin, everybody came to Elma Lewis School of Fine Arts. She had an amazing dance company there, brilliant. I had never seen a Black girl dance on point. That blew me away, because they went from those point shoes to bare feet, where Jeffrey Holder set Dougala. before. That was the first time I ever saw Dougla. And I loved her because it didn't matter that you didn't look like a dancer. It was, where was your heart and who were you? What could you bring to the table, to the situation? So I got into her companies there. And because all these choreographers were coming from New York, eventually, like Donna, I danced my way to New York as well. I also realized very quickly that not a lot of people had the money to maintain a dance company. In other words, only Ailey that I knew of, Mr. Mitchell was really just kind of getting his company started, but I didn't know, nobody was on salary. So I ended up helping to keep companies together. I started working with Fred Benjamin and then George Faison and, just managing. And while I had been in Boston, I worked with Billy Wilson, who was the head of the Dance Theater of Boston at the time. And he came to New York to do Bubbling Brown Sugar. And so we loaded up a car and drove down to New York to audition for Bubbling Brown Sugar. But the jobs were already taken and all they had was understudies. And I was like, what does understudy do? They don't even dance. What am I going to do? So I walked up to a man who was sitting in the audience, who they told me was the general manager and a producer, Mr. Ashton Springer. And I sat down beside him and I said, Mr. Springer, you should hire me in your office because I'd be an asset to you. And he laughed and he said, well, meet me in my office. Come by my office. And he told me where he was on 44th Street at the Little Theater, which is now the Neil Simon. And the next morning at 9 o'clock, I showed up. Of course, nobody in the theater world works till 10, but I ended up going in and a young man let me in and I went in and started answering the phone. And when Mr. Springer came in, I was like, theater management, may I help you? I'm sorry, Mr. Springer's not here. Could I take a message? And he walked in and saw me and walked past me. So I kept doing it. Inevitably, Mr. Springer took me by the hand to the office of the Association of Theatrical Press Agents and Managers at PAM, which you have to be in that union in order to be a manager or a press agent on Broadway. And he walked me in. They took 5 quote unquote minority apprentices. And I was one of those 5. I didn't know anything about at PAM. I didn't really know too much about Broadway, but I actually ended up, after 1 year, you're supposed to apprentice for 3 years. I ended up being asked by Joseph Papp and Manny Eisenberg if I would take For Color Girls on the road because Ntozake Shange had said they were not going to open her show without a Black woman. Anyway, I ended up doing a major theater, ended up at the Negro Ensemble Company. And that was kind of like the beginning of my world into the arts. I'll stop there. It goes on and on. I've got more than 50 years now. It goes on and on.
Yeah, I'm going to be quick compared to that. I mean, what did I have to say? What have I done? Nothing. Wow. Ooh, just really in awe and speechless at this panel, at these women, and want to stand in my own privilege and say that I'm here because of Eileen J. Morris. I had the great privilege of being born her niece on her birthday. Wow. So she's kind of stuck with me. And also my first caregiver. So my story is a story about mental health, Black women, and how Black women have to show up for each other when systems fail us, right? So my mother, being, a young mother, suffered from depression, which undiagnosed, as we all know, we figured, it out later, right? And was unable to care for me in the ways that she should have. And so she called up on her 17-year-old sister to do so. And that 17-year-old sister, it's my Aunt Eileen, who took me to college with her and began the process of helping to raise me, which involved me spending a lot of time at the ensemble theater. So you hear her story and you jump in at the ensemble part, and that is where I spent every most of my days after school. When most people had a babysitter, I was with my aunt and she was directing and she was working in theater. And so that's how I became a theater person. A story about how Black women take care of each other and care for each other and fill in those blanks for each other. And if my aunt had not filled in some blanks for my mom, I might be something else. I might not be in this Zoom room. So I have to acknowledge that. I acknowledge that always and in every room that I'm in, because I feel fortunate to be able to do something that I love, that I don't know what I'd be doing because I never had to imagine another life. I don't know what I'd be doing because I never had to. And hopefully I won't, right? And I'm working really hard to make sure that, like Amanda, can have a whole life in this world and in this field that, you know, causes us harm. So my formative years, from the moments I really remember until I left Houston, were spent a combination of at the ensemble and at my aunt's house, where she would host cast parties with people, you know, big name people who I didn't know at the time were big name people. I didn't know it was August Wilson. I didn't know that was Lynn Redgrave, or, you know, the art making process was deeply embedded in community in Houston, and that if you were doing a play, you were gonna come through and eat some gumbo at my aunt's house probably, and, you know, play some cards. So my story is one of community, what people call activism, is what we do, the everyday acts that we perform to prolong our own lives and to take care of each other. And I grew up steeped like a tea bag in that, and came to New York to go to college like everybody else who comes here. And after college, moved to Brooklyn with lofty ideas of just having ease in terms of finding a life in the field. And though it definitely did not find ease, I want to name that my formative years and the way that I grew up definitely facilitated a lot of ease, because I grew up steeped in the tradition of Black theater. And for that, I am forever grateful. I'm gonna stop there.
This panel is absolutely amazing. I am in awe. The next question is, can you recall a time where you felt unheard or unseen?
I would say probably unheard. Was working on some of the Broadway shows. You know, the commercial world is a very different industry than the nonprofit. Nonprofit has a mission. There is more time to build. It's a more collaborative effort. You know, when my company was hired to work on Broadway shows, it's specific, hired to bring in African-American ticket buyers. That's it. That's all we need. That's fine. And so that did not, when I look back, I can really see that that never allowed us to really to be fully ourselves, you know, because we were relegated to a lane. And that lane was, you know, the deliverables of African-American ticket buyers. And so that part of us that's unseen was that we could do so much more, but there wasn't an interest for us to do more than that. So that was probably the only time, I think, when I have really felt that, and you know, just checked into that emotion, and just also think about what can I do about that, because I also thought, okay, if I walk away, what happens to the African-American performers and them having access to the audiences that they dream about? Because they grab us on the side and say, please, can you make sure we go to the churches? Can you make sure we're getting the Black people in? Can you make sure? So we felt the commitment to them, to the work. At the same time, how much of us do we have to give to make that happen? You know, what's the price? And so that was something that I always had to think about. In my last show, I was very clear about that I'd had enough. I made my contribution.
Good for you.
Yes.
It's been kind of interesting watching our cycle of life, because when I came into New York in the late 60s, early 70s, and I got into the union, it was like that window, another window that we had. Every so many years, we get a big window where the attention turns to the Black people or the people of color. And when I came into New York, there were 9 Black shows on Broadway, 9. But there were no Black managers. There was only the ones from the Negro Ensemble Company, Carolyn Jones, who I ended up apprenticing with, Irene Gandy, who was like the press agent of everything and everybody, the fiercest one I ever met. And, you know, they brought 5 of us in. And so we all got to, we were the pick of the litter. And so My years at the Negro Ensemble Company, we brought Soldiers Play, we brought First Breeze of Summer. I mean, we were producing shows. I got to work with Vinette Carroll, and we were bringing Your Arms Too Short to Box with God and Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope. And so we watched it come into its renaissance, actually, another renaissance. And then even when we built the New Jersey Performing Arts Center and we integrated every one of those unions, we determined, we made these people really pay attention. um, you know, it quickly dissipated. It's like we have these cycles. Um, and so I feel like I don't think I've ever really had a time where I didn't feel unheard or unseen. I made myself heard and seen. I I I would say that it's really important because we're now at this next renaissance moment. The good part about COVID is how the covers have been pulled back and everybody in the world gets to see what we've known all our entire existence here in this country. But it's not even just here in this country, it's all over the world. How people of African descent, particularly, but people of color, how we're treated everywhere. And so I think that the key, from what I can surmise from all these years of watching these cycles, is that you have to know who you are and what you believe and what you're going to be committed to. And you bring that to the table. Because the key when we were coming up was about having a seat at the table and a voice. But now it's about owning the table.
Yeah, yeah. I get giddy inside when I hear you talk about that, because of the fact, Miss Stephanie and Miss Donna, the thing is that we, there have been parts of our journeys where, when you peel back the layers, there are things that, become revealed for yourself and for others. And sometimes, just being able to be that stick-to-itiveness, that kind of determination, that kind of groundedness that you have to consistently have to get through and to make it happen. That kind of energy and synergy is what keeps guiding us and keeps pushing us through. Because so many times I feel like when I think about the kind of art that we've been presenting over the years at the Ensemble Theater, and I'm speaking from a regional perspective because we weren't doing things in New York and on Broadway. It was more from a regional perspective, but there were plays that were being done all across the country, and especially in New York City, that our community was getting an opportunity to be a part of, and them not even realizing that, hey, I'm seeing things that have been done, off Broadway in New York or in Chicago, and really understanding the appreciation. I think that it's always about trying to, for me, I felt a lot of times that I always had to prove and show that the work that we're doing speaks to the diversity and the equity of who we are as a people. It speaks to what's being done across the region. Don't you all see it? Can't you understand why it's important to have this communalness, this community, this coming together as a people? Why don't they see it? Why don't you understand it? Can't you get a handle on it? Because you see the work, and if you're seeing the work, then you're getting a sense of the dynamicness of what it is that we're doing. So sometimes it would feel like that it wasn't being appreciated, or that there was not understanding of it. And that's where I think that what you said, Ms. Stephanie, that you just have to stick to it. You have to be grounded and secure in who you are, and know that it's the best thing for this institution and for the world when it comes to me as a Black woman presenting Black theater to audiences, and so that they understand and get an opportunity to see the work through the lens of African Americans and through our stories.
Yeah, woo. Heard and seen. I agree with everyone. It's like pick a time when I haven't, pick a day, any Wednesday, any Tuesday, any day. I think what I want to name is the experience of feeling hyper visible and invisible at the same time. That in our field, and in the world, right? We just saw this with the last election. Thank you, Black women. Black women saved democracy. But wait a minute, 2 weeks ago, we were being shamed and blamed, for everything. So I think we experience, once you understand, sort of how you know, all of these things, all these isms work and converge, right, to affect you as a Black woman, that you're hyper visible and invisible, right? You take up too much space and I can't see you at the same time. And so that is definitely a part of our experience that has to be named, because it speaks to people's implicit biases and their perceptions that we constantly have to fight against to be seen and heard, that we're fighting against someone's wackadoodle, you know, perception that came up off of TV, right? Like, why should I take years off of my life because all you did was watch Good Times growing up or something, right? That's your problem. But then it becomes our problem. Hyper visible and invisible at the same time. Black girls know what that's about too, because they experienced that in school. So I think what we want to name is that, and that being seen and heard necessitates folks seeing us as fully realized human beings. Before we go on, I just have to, speaking of being seen and heard, in the beginning of talking about the list of demands, I neglected to to name two of the architects, one being Asari Beale and David King, being the two chief architects of this document. And we want to just take a moment to give them their roses, and please forgive me for not taking the time to do so earlier, because that is so important. Thank you, Asari Beale, a Black woman. All right.
Can I just add, I just wanted to add something. I've always distinguished work from job. The work that you're called to do is your life. That's your life work. It's where your values are. It's what your commitment is to. It's who you are. You work your whole life. Our work has been to stand up and be counted and not allow people to get away with ignoring us or making us invisible. I mean, that's our life work, the struggle. The job is simply, they come and go. They're there to facilitate your meeting people, getting experiences, gaining your expertise, building your resume. But jobs can never be the ultimate goal. You know, your work is why you're here. It's the gifts and the talents and the passion that drives you to stand strong and to be present in the moment and to see what the issue is and to address the issue and not be afraid. Never be afraid to make it up, because that's all they do.
Yes, I have.
That is so true, Stephanie.
Write that down.
And with such authority and confidence, it's immediately bought into. You're like, wait a minute, what is that? And so absolutely, I love what you said about, you know, the distinction between job and work and values. And I'm a mission-based person, so I have 3 missions in life. You know, first is to raise arts administrators of color, to lead the field. The second is to create access to the arts, no matter what I do. And the third is to foster interest and support in adoption. My daughter's adopted, and it's been just an amazing journey. So everything I do comes from one of those missions, if not all of them together. And you're right, the jobs have come to go, you know, different opportunities to translate that. But that fundamental core mission never changes. Yeah.
That's it.
I got you.
That's why you're so fierce. That's why all of you all are so fierce. What a wonderful time we're living in right now. I'm sorry, I don't want to dominate, but I just got to tell you,
No,
I am so proud.
You should dominate.
I'm so proud of this generation and the opportunities that you have right now. Like I said, it's a window. So your ability, the resources that you have now, that you can galvanize a whole world with a click of a button. Oh my God. And that you got a voice, you create your own platforms. I'm so blown away. I mean, I've been trying to preach about technology for 25 years. Finally, the arts have no choice. They have to be a part of it now. But look at what you get to make up. You get to create a new world, a more equitable world, forget all these buzzwords, inclusion and equity and all. It's the integration. It's just equality. You get to create a world where everybody is equal. You hold the platform. That's what I meant by owning the table. You get to invite the people to the table, and you get to invite everybody to the table. It's all the art for all the people all the time.
Right.
Okay.
And it's not just one set of people. It's like, it's as you said, it's people from all over the world and people from different entities, different disciplines, different ideas and different ideologies that come together. I always think, I love the fact that you talked about work and job, because I always looked at my art as my ministry. And maybe, you know, whatever, because I was raised Catholic all my life and just thinking about from a spiritual perspective, but I always felt that my art was what I was led to do always. And to take along with that mentorship, which is a huge and important part of you know, what it is that I feel that I do and contribute. Thus the bold grant that I was able to get, because of the fact that, you know, as a female leader, you're going to be able to mentor other women to be able to come and be a part of this journey that we call art, and whatever that is, because it's not just one set of things. It's many, many different things. And I think that versatility is what has made up most of who we are, because of the fact that we've learned how to, and we've embraced, and we've been, you know, included in our lives a variety of different ideas and things that pertain to the art, but that afford us an opportunity to do it. And then, unlike, as you said, Ms. Stephanie, how this generation has been able to do it so flawlessly. Really, they've just been able to reach out. It took us through so many hills and valleys to get to do what they're doing now, and we still haven't even made it there. So you're right, kudos, and, you know, pay homage to that, because it's a blessing to be able to see, witness that, and then learn how to incorporate that in what we do as well.
Child, I'm so excited for y'all. You know,
Yes.
I'm like, for you. It's your turn. It's your time to step into the light. I mean, we got broad shoulders for you to stand on. Go for it.
Yes, the confidence in this chat is absolutely amazing, which brings me to my next question. What advice would you have to other Black women looking for advancement in their field, but like they are kind of unable to vocalize that they demand more for their skill set? Because I know a lot of women who are talented, but they're scared to speak up and demand that, like, listen, my talent is here. You're going to address that.
I think I would just say, because I would count myself as one of those persons that it took a long time for me to figure out that I was worth it. I mean, I knew I had the skills. I understood all the things that went with that, but I didn't think I asked for it soon enough. And so, and still don't, you know, still am learning how to, you know, to ask and you know, try to look at things differently, because I don't have a retirement plan. I don't have pension and health in my job. And I've been with my job over 25 plus years. And so when you look at that, I think it's about anybody who feels that they don't know how to speak up, they just need to talk to somebody else and say, hey, what would you say? Talk to 2 and 3 other people and just say, give me some ideas, and take those ideas down, write them down, and then make a plan of action. And then say, this is what I feel that I need to do in order to make it better for myself, make it better for my future, so that you won't be someone like myself without a retirement plan and getting ready to retire in 10 plus years or whatever that is.
Thank you. I agree with you. I would also add that having a mentor is everything. It's everything. I have 3. I've always had mentors. And so I think surrounding yourself with someone who is smarter than you is always going to be a way to advance in your life. And being very open to ask for the guidance and direction that you need from them, but placing yourself in the environments where you can thrive. You know, so this is the time to look at what affiliations do I have? Where am I studying? Where do I go for my social activities? All of these things, these are places to connect. I was very fortunate because, you know, my first mentor was Arthur Mitchell. And so he just opened up all the doors for me and made me feel, as Stephanie said, feelings, because I was with Arthur Mitchell. So I was like, well, what can I not do? You know, I've got to represent, you know, he has such high standards. You better be up to that. You know, just the way we spoke, the way we dressed, everything. And then working with George Wolf for 9 years. So George had a whole different kind of mentorship. George was about freedom. total trust. Okay, this is what you want to do? Fine, go do it. Never once in those 9 years did he question or second guess a decision I made. And of course, we had failures. He would just say, okay, well, it's that kind of freedom. So by the time when I started my own company, I had those muscles under my belt because I had been with these two incredibly brilliant men who had really shepherded me forward. But I didn't stop there. I continue to surround myself with really fierce people who constantly are inspiring me. I keep learning, understanding that this journey is lifelong. So I'm constantly studying, I'm reading, I'm writing. I just finished my second book. Woo. So, just opportunities to continue to stretch, grow, expand. And so when we can look at life with that kind of joy and rigor, there's nothing we can't accomplish. Continue to surround ourselves with sisterhood. Also is so important. Women, we support each other. And I take great joy in having mentored quite a few young Black women to advance in their careers, to start their own companies, and have them soar, because their victory is my victory. That's my greatest source of joy, seeing someone fly. And all of us, that's what we must do.
Speaking of mentors, I want to just name that all your mentors, some of your mentors are going to be, 20 years younger than you. That if you are of a certain age and you don't have some mentors that are under the age of 30, you're going to miss out on some cultural shifts. So I want to shout out my mentors in the room, who many of them under the age of 30, who teach me every day about cultural shifts, about how to be expansive, about the things that I need to learn and unlearn. So some of your mentors are younger than you.
Amen. I was always taught that you had to have 3 generations in the room before you made any decision. I wanted to say 2 things. Only faith is fear is the perversion of faith. Only faith can help you overcome your fear, because fear is always going to come, right? But it's what you do with it. If you embrace it, then you are setting yourself up for failure. But if you face it and say, oh no, I will not, I believe. And that goes back to my first comment, which was, you got to know who you are and what you believe. And you got to be willing to stand on it. Without Mickey Shepard, Baraka Saleh, Laura Greer, Linda Walton, I didn't have WOCA. I didn't have the Women of Color in the Arts, which I highly recommend for all of you guys. If you haven't, I've been mentoring there for 6 years. But those women became my community. They were still to this day, they are my community. We've added a lot of younger women now to the mix, but you have to have people who will tell you the truth about yourself. And that's who we have become for one another. And as we've never really, a couple of us have lived in the same place at the same time, but usually we live in different parts of the world. And so, but never too far away that if you call and say, I need this, or if someone comes to me and said, well, Mickey Shepard told me to call you, we pick up the phone, we talk, and we share all of the drama, trauma, whatever is coming our way. We share it with one another and we become our best cheerleaders. We edify each other. We build each other up. We support one another. We're constantly telling each other, oh no, you can do that. You need help? I'll help you. So what Eileen and Donna have said, and even Toya, I always have young people. I want y'all to take me with you, because this is your world now. And we just learning how to function in all this technology. We need each other. You cannot do this by yourself. We all need each other. So you have to build a community around you. It's the only way that you're ever going to overcome your inability to vocalize what you demand. Somebody has to keep telling you, yes, you can. Yes, you can. You go back in there and you tell them, you stand up. Who said that? My grandmother would tell me to sit up straight. Right. That's what we're going to tell you. Stand up straight. Look in that mirror and tell yourself, girl, you are fierce. You are wonderful. You got everything you need. I love this one scripture in the Bible that says that everything pertaining to life and godliness is already in you. You already have everything you need in you to succeed. So all you need are people around you to help you pull those things out of you, help you see yourself. People always ask me to do jobs that I never did before. And I just say, they'd say, can you do this? I'm, yes, of course I can do it.
What a blessing. What a blessing. What a blessing. I just want to acknowledge that the chat is on fire. The chat is on fire with just appreciation for the words of wisdom that you all have shared with us today. We can't thank you enough. My goodness. Wow. I'm just glad it's being recorded.
It's honestly amazing. Being a youngin in the game, it's amazing. So my last question is, because we talk about the struggle and we talk about the hardships, but I have witnessed the joy and the party that happens. So how have you been able to center joy, and like what does that look like for you personally?
I'll say that for me, there's always joy, even in something that is probably has gotten me pausing. There's always some joy in every single piece of art, a piece of being, of standing on the ground, the ground on which we stand, as August said. There's always some joy in it, always. So I think that if we take it for that and understand that despite everything, I mean, even just like now, being in Houston and, Houston not being able to understand, how to make sure that everybody can have power. There's still joy in the fact that I'm here and I'm able to have this conversation in the corner of a room that's unfamiliar territory. You find joy in whatever it is that you want to do. And I think that you speak that. Words are powerful, right? So since words are powerful, you have to speak those things into fruition. You have to help people understand that you know that there's joy and that you're going to find that joy in what you do. You're going to position yourself so that you can continue to make those strides in the world that you love so very much, which is our art. The art that we live and breathe in. And you're going to surround yourself with people that are going to assist you in making yourself a better person and helping you to find the light at the end of the tunnel, and helping you to be secure in who you are and making sure that you continue to tell the story.
Beautiful. I would also add, I agree with you 1,000%, that joy comes from within. I don't believe that joy is someone else can give you. They can make you feel good. They can be an extension of what that is, but fundamentally at our core, I think we have to develop that joy from within our lives, and that comes from loving ourselves. And I know that one of the challenges we have as women, and Black women in particular, is that there are many things in society that would suggest we shouldn't love ourselves for millions of reasons. And so it's a choice. So I think we choose that as the queens that we are, we choose that we're going to love ourselves. And from that joy we take with us, regardless of what those circumstances are. So I have this very specific thing that I get real super joyful about. When I hear my daughter laugh, I just love her laughter. It's like little crystals that fall from the sky. It's just, I love that. So I like that. She's 18, so it's, not like it's a little kid, but I love hearing that. So that brings me great joy. I love when I see audiences coming to a show and like it's like the first time, and you see this light in their faces. I love that. That's just like, so great. I love watching the big birth of a new piece, a new work that, nobody quite knew what that's going to look like. And then you see, oh, this is magic. I love that. So there's many things that bring us joy, but fundamentally, I believe it's from the inside out. And one of my mentors, Isaku Ikeda, he talks about joy is a choice. So I choose joy. I refuse to suffer. There's nothing in this world that's going to make me suffer. That is my choice. And I am in total command of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want to say one of the things that when I'm down and having a bad day that brings me joy, if I can't have it in person, which I haven't been able to in over a year, don't talk to me about it, is laughing until I pee with my family. With with my brother, with my aunts, that we have some really funny people, and we get into some ridiculous conversations, and you will pee from laughing. And I love that about our family, is our ability to just really laugh and center loud, raucous laughter where you have to ask somebody, be quiet. And then my other thing that brings me joy is making Black girls happy, because it's hard to do. So when you do it, it's like, whoo.
Amen. I distinguish joy from happiness. Joy to me is spiritual. For me, Jesus is my joy. Not Christianity, not church, Jesus, who brought a kingdom of love. He said I had to learn how to love God, because that's a love that surpasses emotion and feeling. That's something that is eternal. It overcomes all my weaknesses and frailties. And then I had to learn that love so I could learn how to love myself, right? Without being selfish, because love is really selfless. And then I had to learn to take that love, that selfless love, and learn how to love everybody else. So for me, joy is spiritual, and it is a choice, and it does come from the inside out. My joy, that old song said, nobody can take my joy away, right? That joy is mine. I own that joy. Happiness, on the other hand, that's external. You know, if something happens that makes me happy, you know, I'm happy when I see little children, my grandchildren come see me, I'm happy. But joy, that's mine, and nobody can take my joy.
Yes, absolutely amazing. I just want to thank you all for the wonderful insight and just for allowing us to be that listening ear. I'm sure that I speak for the audience as well when I say to hear these kind of like shared experience from Black women really reiterates that we need to do better. Well, actually, I want to say that white dominated spaces need to do better. It is very much essential that they do, and we really are the blueprint, you know. I want to take the time to ask the audience a question. You can answer this in the chat. Do you have Black women on your staff? And if so, how many? And there's another question that, a quick question if we have time for the audience that I have. If we don't, that's perfectly fine. But what is your organization's culture like? To break that down, like what is the atmosphere of these spaces that you are asking Black women to inhibit? You can answer that by like raising your hand and verbalize it so we can hear it. But I think that's very important. And if you're not sure, that says something as well. You know, you're asking Black women to come into these spaces, you need to be aware of the culture that you are inflicting on them.
Thank you, Amanda. I want to just give us a moment to thank Amanda Gardner for guiding us today. What an amazing moderator. How lucky we are to have such wisdom in this room and such careful consideration for the questions. To support Amanda's questions to you, we ask you to support this campaign. Thinking about your organizations, thinking about your lives. As we said, change begins from within. So what is your relationship to and with Black women in your life and in your work? And if you are passionate about this field and this work, how passionate are you about contributing to the change that needs to be made? Please support this list of demands. It is crucial, it is non-negotiable that we focus our energies and center the folks who have for too long worked unrecognized and unacknowledged. So thank you to our panel. Thank you, Donna Walker-Kuhn, Stephanie Hewley, Eileen J. Morris. Thank you, Chesray Dolfa. Thank you, Asari Beal. Thank you, Amanda Gardner. Thank you to my fellow board members, Rachel Watts. Thank you, Tracy Lester, for lending your testimonies. Monique Letamende, all my Vibe family. Robin Walker Murphy for telling me the truth about myself. And yeah, you can sign your name to the list of demands and support in so many ways. So we look forward to seeing you back here for a follow-up where we're going to check in about this. I'm going to now pass it back to, no, I'm closing it out. That's right. So Kinsey has put in the chat where you can submit a testimonial. You can sign. There are so many ways that you can support, but don't leave this Zoom room without harnessing the energy and the magic and the power that was created and generated. We cannot thank our panel enough. We can't thank this lit audience enough. Thank you for your energy. Thank you to the New York City Arts and Ed Roundtable, the staff, Malondo Jones, Kenzie Keck, Kimberly Olson, and to my fellow board members. We'll see y'all soon. Thanks, everybody.